So today we're going to continue our discussion about hitting shots from different lies and how the ball will react from different lies, and some technique adjustments that we might have to make to hit shots from different lies successfully. A very common questions that I often receive is how to hit bunker shots when you have a lot of sand and no sand. So we have two different lies here. Here we got tons of sand underneath the golf ball, and here we got none. All right, so when you play different golf courses, every course has different conditions, and you're gonna face different type of lies in the bunker as well. So in the bunker shot, it's extremely important to control how far the club swings underneath the golf ball in the sand. Okay, if we have a lot of sand, it's very important to not swing the club too much underneath the golf ball, because if you do that, you're gonna hit a very common shot that looks like this. Happens to a lot of players. So what actually happens there is that the club head moves too much underneath the golf ball, and you won't have enough energy in the sand to take the ball out of the bunker. So when you're faced with a shot with a lot of sand and a lot of fluffy sand underneath the golf ball, you have to make sure that the club head doesn't get too far underneath the golf ball. We do that by exposing the bounce a lot. Okay, if the bounce is really exposed, the club head is not going to want to dig. If the leading edge is too exposed, the club head is going to dig. All right, so we have to make a few adjustments in the setup to expose the bounce. First of all, we set up with a lot more open club face. Okay, a more open club face is going to help, because if you open up the club face, the club is going to lay more on the back part of the club, the bounce, and you're going to be able to use it better. We're also going to try to make sure that we swing the club more around the body, so we have a more shallow attack angle. Okay, if we're too steep on this, we're also going to tend to dig too much underneath the golf ball. And the last thing we want to do, we want to make sure the ball is up in the stance, and we want to really open up that club face even more in the backswing. So if you put a little sand on top of the club head, we want to make sure that that sand falls off from the top of the club head. If we've done that, we have rolled the face even more open, exposed the bounce even more, and from here the club is not going to tend to dig as much, and you can hit these shots more successfully. Perfect. So if you look there, the club didn't go too much underneath the golf ball. Instead, it just went barely under the golf ball, because I was able to expose the bounce a lot. So let's look at the next option here. Well, the next lie here. Here we don't have much sand at all underneath the golf ball. So here we actually have to make adjustments to make sure that the club head actually moves underneath the golf ball, because if we don't, we're going to tend to thin it, and the ball's going to go 300 yards from this lie. Okay, that's a very common mistake. So here we actually have to make sure that we almost expose the leading edge, so that the club head will dig underneath the golf ball. So this is a completely different technique compared to a shot when you have a lot of sand underneath the golf ball. So here we want to play the shot more with a square, almost shot club head. All right, and then we want to get a little bit steeper, so that the club can actually dig underneath the ball. Okay, this shot you don't have to hit as hard as you do when you have a lot of sand. So this is more of a pitch swing. It's almost like you're trying to hit a pitch shot, but you're intentionally hitting the shot a little bit more fat. So same setup, the ball is still kind of up in the stance, but then you pick the club head up a little bit steeper, and then you try to dig that club more underneath the golf ball to make sure that you actually get underneath it. Okay, so let's see if I can do it here. Ball is up in the stance, I have a more square club head, pick the club up a little bit more, and then I'm trying to dig the club more underneath the golf ball. Perfect, more like that. So you see, that's a smaller swing, slower speed, and I'm intentionally trying to dig that leading edge more underneath the golf ball. So that's how you hit two different type of techniques, or that's how you use two different type of techniques when you have different lies in the bunker. So no shots are really the same. You can have a stock technique for the majority of your bunker shots that have more sand underneath the golf ball, but make sure that you adjust your setup and technique when you have different lies even in the bunker.